Well, hi everyone. I'm John Ritlin with a retro review of WWE Great American Bash 2005. And it was better than the 2004 edition, but that's not saying much because you probably could have just scribbled a few things down on a piece of paper, booking a random fantasy card, or just taking a few schlubs from the, the beginners class that is of Ohio Valley Wrestling and come up with a better card than what ended up being on Great American Bash 2004. This show has also not aged all that well. The reason it hasn't aged all that well is because there were some things that were really goddamn bad at the time and have aged like a fine milk. And half of this show could have been on SmackDown. This is when the brand exclusive pay-per-view concept was kind of starting to unravel. Raw was running away with it, even though Raw's pay-per-views at times weren't all that great. They had more energy, more talent because Vince was putting more stock into what Raw was doing. And SmackDown has some talents. The problem, they just didn't care. They just did not care enough. Creative did not care enough, and SmackDown was being dragged down. So, how has this show held up? Well, I pretty much just said it hadn't held up, but how's the card? What is on the card? M&M, Mercury, Nitro, Molina. Molina screaming a lot, annoying everybody. And she was decent enough in the ring, even good in the ring at times, but that screaming was annoying, and Mercury and Nitro were a good team. They took on Animal and Heidenreich. Heidenreich, who had no business being anywhere near the LOD Road Warriors name. Terrible. I get why they did it. They were also hyping up the, the recently released Road Warriors documentary that I used to own on DVD, and you can actually watch the documentary on the award-winning WWE Network. But it's for the Tag Team Championships on SmackDown. And a Doomsday Device for 3. I'm not going to go over too many of these matches. I really don't mean much of anything because I'm going to save my ranting for a few, choice segments or matches because holy shit, there was some dog shit stuff on this show. Now, is it the worst pay-per-view of the year? No. Also, it did just occur to me that SummerSlam 2005 is going to be the 15-year anniversary of that. Answers in the comments. Should I retro-review that? Ray and Eddie in the custody for Dominic ladder match. And Michaels versus Hogan. Icon versus Icon. Where Michaels sold everything like Hogan was hitting him with, with a goddamn naval vessel or something like that. Or a goddamn, he was hitting him with a game of Battleship. Or the movie Battleship. That would be a big enough, bomb right there. So, anyway, moving on from that, Eddie talks manipulating Ray and how Dominic will be at ringside. I can't even escape Dominic in these older shows. No, I have no idea why I have such an unyielding rage towards Dominic. Christian versus Booker T with Sharmell, second match of the show. Not bad. They feuded for a few weeks, and the action was good. Booker kept trying to, come back after Christian kept grounding him. We get a bookend for 2, a little more action. Sharmell gets involved with a slap and stuff like that. And we get a scissors kick off the ropes, 1, 2, 3. And it was what it was. Booker got the victory. Melina then says she will strip Tori Wilson down to her bra and panties tonight because that's the era we were in where they just humiliated the goddamn women by having them in bra and panties matches. Whether they were beautiful or not, what the fuck? I even thought this was stupid to do with the women back then, even though it was oh wow, they're beautiful women, they go to the friggin' internet and watch that shit, or I could get a magazine. Why the fuck am I gonna pay a pay-per-view to watch that when I could just get it on free TV? Or why even do it on free TV? Why not maybe have the women have matches where they could do some stuff? But no, WWE conditioned their audience to just not give a shit about the women. Benoit versus Orlando Jordan, U.S. title. Action was good at times. There was, some good psychology, despite the fact that it's an Orlando Jordan match, and Orlando Jordan was never all that good in the ring. He wasn't bad. He was just very basic. He was very vanilla. He was just very there. He didn't really mean much. He didn't stand out. Yet he somehow held the United States Championship for 150 days. Somehow. An exposed buckle, and Orlando Jordan got the victory. Cool, whatever. Benoit gets a standing ovation. Oh, crowd, if you only fucking knew. You only fucking knew. By the way, side note, if you feel that Benoit deserves being in the WWE Hall of Fame, fuck you, you're wrong. No. No, he does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care how good he was, how great he was, how legendary he was in the ring. No. And there are others in the Hall of Fame who don't deserve to be there. Moving on. Muhammad Hassan with Davari and a bunch of ski mask guys versus The Undertaker. #1 contenders match. Had they not done the segment where they had guys in masks choke out The Undertaker with piano wire, carry Davari out like a martyr, Had that not aired the same day in the UK as the London tunnel bombings, they probably were going to make Muhammad Hassan a world champion at SummerSlam. He was going to beat Batista. That wouldn't have gone well, because they'd already turned his character into a fucking stereotypical villain, and it was fucking stupid. And did I mention they choked him out with piano wire? This was less than 4 years before, 4 years after 9/11. So everything was kind of still freshly, open and everything. These wounds were still open. And they did Muhammad Hassan no favors. It was stupid. It was fucking, it wasn't going to end well, regardless of whether any of the real life events actually happened, and whether, UPN basically said, no, you're going to get rid of this fucking character. And it was a terrible idea. I mean, they could have put him on Raw, but I'm imagining, Spike TV, well, what was it? No, they were TNA at the time. Maybe they became Spike TV, but yeah, then they got, TNA a little bit later. And actually did a lot better getting TNA because it fit the alternative feel of the program. So, they had Hassan cut a promo where he said that The Undertaker was a prime target. Oh boy. This is aging well. This is aging really... No wonder this guy left wrestling and apparently, I guess became a teacher and made, one other wrestling appearance, I think, either earlier this year or late last year. What the fuck else? I'd want to get away from it, too. The Mask guys continued to, try and attack Undertaker. And Michael Cole called them his sympathizers. Hassan's sympathizers. Oh, boy. Aging well. Aging really goddamn well. And then they did the wire choking thing again because they didn't fucking learn at all. What the fuck? And then, my God, at one point, after Undertaker had laid some people out, the bodies flying all over the place here. Tone deaf is the way I could describe this. Chokeslam for 3. The Masked guys attack Undertaker again. Then he lays them out. And then Daivari gets thrown into him. And then he lays out Daivari. And then he chases after Hassan. And then he chokeslams him on the stage and then removes him of the paneling. The great stuff. It was a great maneuver. Sorry, I'm trying to add some levity to this before I get angry again. Last ride onto a crash pad, an obvious crash pad. But then there's fake blood, and he's laid out and everything. He got powerbombed on the concrete, which would have killed him, by the way, but his character was killed off effectively. Let me just say this much. If you have to seek out a new career after you are, put in this kind of, role, or, this kind of, bad gimmick, no wonder I would want to go seek out a new career as well. This was bad. This was really, really bad. And it was just Undertaker just absolutely destroying the guy. Even though Hassan got in some moves, it was just a friggin' mugging. And it was a dumb character. And it could have been something, but nah, it wasn't. I think we got Tori Wilson talking about she was going to win the Brawn Panties match because it's exactly what we need to transition to. Then we transition back to, not Daivari, but Hassan getting taken out, stretchered out. Broken into twisted skin and bones. Cole on Hassan. It sounds almost like a version of coleslaw. Then we go to the Mexicools versus the BWO because, I didn't hate this pay-per-view enough. Let's have 2 of the worst gimmicks to ever happen. Let's have Nova, Simon Dean, a.k.a. that idiot. Stevie Richards was fine, actually pretty good athlete. And Blue Meanie, pretty good athlete as well. And the Mexicools actually are really great athletes as well. I got to meet Super Crazy a few times at indie shows last year. Really nice guy. And I made sure to pay extra for a little bit of his merch because the least I could do, as a fan of his. Moving on. Hoovy, talented, ego-driven though. Psychosis, kind of the same thing. They came out of riding lawnmowers. I would love to know who came up with this gimmick. I just want to talk. It's probably Michael Hayes. Which means Michael Hayes deserved to be fucking slapped repeatedly for it. Or as Bruce Pritchard. In that case, he should have been ran out of the goddamn company. Because Bruce Pritchard, at least I believe he was working for the company at this time, should have never been allowed in wrestling. He was a goddamn joke. And little sidebar, he's complaining that he's tired and stressed because he's having to run Raw and SmackDown. Well, guess what, Bruce? Nobody wanted you to fucking come back besides Vince McMahon anyway, but you're his little bitch, his little lapdog, just like Pat Patterson. Only hopefully you're not quite like Pat Patterson, the piece of shit that he is. So, Bruce, just fucking quit. Just fucking quit, you goddamn coward. We don't want you here. It's not like the show's going to be run any worse. I mean, what the fuck? Moving on. Yeah, by the way, leg drop from Psychosis, pins Richards. This was a pointless match. It was also a way to make good with the Blue Meanie after JBL stupidly beat him up because JBL's a goddamn bully and a piece of shit and deserves every bit of ridicule that he gets. Ray versus Eddie. Dominic at ringside. Can't escape him. No idea why I have rage towards him. Action was good. Eddie beat him down after a while, even though Ray had some emotion because his son was there at ringside. If Eddie won, he was going to actually reveal that Dominic was his son. Don't make me take their papa. I'm your papi, and I'm sorry. I really tried to honor Eddie there, and I realized that just sounded really bad. Like, I really can't do an accent like that at all. I love Eddie. He's in my top 5 of all time, but Eddie did his best here, but this angle just wasn't good. He hits a frog splash and he gets a cocky pin. But then Ray rolls him up. Most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling. Surprise roll of crucifix pin 1, 2, 3. And then Ray celebrates with Dominic because we can't escape Dominic on TV. I need to stop having rage towards Dominic. Okay, Molina versus Tori Wilson Brawn Panties match. Candice Michelle is the referee. Okay. Regardless of how I feel about the in-ring skills or lack thereof of any of the women at this time, and Tori was never really a wrestler. She did what she did, and she wasn't bad. Candice improved, became women's champion in 2007. And Molina was also there. She's a living legend. She's a legend in women's wrestling. And I'm a descendant of an Egyptian pharaoh. Moving on. This was not good. Tori got stripped, and then Candice and Tori stripped Molina. So, yay, we objectify all the women, but the heel wins. Okay. By the way, Braun Panties match is stupid. I get it. You're showing titillating stuff, but here's the thing. They already freaking drove the women's division into the goddamn gutter constantly. Well, especially by giving it to, Sable. It's another type of gutter, if you know what I mean. But she completely destroyed the women's championship. They had to bring it back eventually. They gave it to Stephanie. That was a lot. I mean, that was mostly a joke. And they had Lita and Trish and other Molly, Holly, Victoria, and this kind of stuff. But nope, we're going to have Braun Panties matches instead. I'm sorry. If you're going to condition your audience to hate women that much and to just see women as objects, regardless of whether they had ability or not, why even have the women on there? Because really, it didn't empower the women to do that shit. It just was demeaning and stupid. Like, really stupid. I'm not saying the women need to be just straight wrestlers. They can be talented and they can be beautiful. But why even have a women's match on there? It's like when they had the Candice Tori Wilson pillow fight at Mania 22. Nothing against either of those women, but that did not belong in the Mania 22 card. Moving on, Batista versus JBL world title match. Yeah, that's pretty much what I think of this. Look, JBL and Batista did not necessarily have great chemistry. They had bad chemistry, but it wasn't necessary to have this match go about 20 pissing minutes when it could have gone about 14. It wasn't good. I did not enjoy this at all. It was messy. It was slow. Not that I expect these guys to be breaking out hurricanranas and shit like that, but this was slower than you would expect with these guys. JBL was also dressed in his Fox White Nation gear, and yeah, Fox News and Fox Nation and all that bullshit. Goddamn bullshit propaganda. Anyway, moving on from that. Boy, I'm just so... I don't know if you could tell, but I didn't really like this pay-per-view that much. And it ends in a DQ finish because the ref gets bumped. Orlando Jordan gets a chair in there. JBL hits him with a chair. Thank God they banned head shots, chair shots of the head now. They really should ban them everywhere. We don't need to see that. Even in New Japan. And then he hits JBL with one, but the ref sees it, DQ, and then JBL goes nuts, whipping, both of them with chairs, and then leaves, and then JBL's laughing because he guaranteed earlier that he'd be victorious over Batista, and then Batista lays them both out with Batista bombs. By the way, Orlando Jordan had just retained the U.S. Championship earlier in the evening, and then he was made to look like a sack of shit right there. And JBL looks and sounds and probably smells like a sack of shit. Yeah, not a good pay-per-view. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm Joe Ritlin. I'll see you soon.